Ajá.
Buenos días. Le damos la bienvenida al cuarto simposio de estudios irlandeses de la Asociación de Estudios Irlandeses del Sur, que se realiza junto al tercer simposio de estudios irlandeses de la Cátedra Extracurricular de Estudios Irlandeses de la Universidad de Salvador. Desde la Escuela de Lenguas Modernas, en la que se inscribe la cátedra, es una alegría investigadores en estudios irlandeses de nuestro país y del exterior también, sino también a todos aquellos que, sin ser estrictamente del ámbito académico, se interesan por la identidad irlandesa y por los vínculos entre Irlanda y Argentina, que siguen afianzándose cada vez más con el paso del tiempo. Sean todos muy bienvenidos. A lo largo de los próximos 2 días seremos testigos y actores de enriquecedores intercambios. En este sentido, nos enorgullece destacar que muchas de las ponencias que se presentarán son fruto de los trabajos finales de la diplomatura en estudios irlandeses que comenzó a dictarse en el año 2020 y que hoy ya va por su 6ª cohorte. También los invitamos a leer los trabajos publicados en el suplemento de la revista académica AEIS, que incluirá en breve los trabajos de la cohorte 5, finalizada en 2023. Asimismo, valoramos enormemente el rol de la AEIS, coanfitriona de este encuentro, como faro de discusión de Irlanda y su diáspora, en especial a nuestro país, y como núcleo del diálogo entre las universidades, investigadores y la comunidad irlando-argentina. Por último, destacamos el apoyo sostenido de la Embajada de Irlanda en la Argentina, que acompaña y promueve permanentemente las iniciativas relacionadas a los estudios irlandeses en Argentina y en la región. Es por eso que quisiera entonces pasarle ahora la palabra al señor embajador de Irlanda en Argentina, Repetti, para que ofrezca también su perspectiva al inicio de este simposio. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días a todos. Para mí participar en la apertura del 4º Simposio Estudios Irlandeses en la Universidad de Salvador. Quisiera comenzar agradeciendo especialmente a la Presidenta de por su invitación para brindar estas palabras a todos los miembros del país y a los organizadores por su trabajo en el simposio. Cuando llegué a la Argentina, una de las primeras actividades que participé fue el simposio del AEIS, que se realizó en 2000. Estoy muy contento de estar nuevamente aquí 2 años. Durante ese tiempo he recibido importantes conmemoraciones para Irlanda que me gustaría destacar. El centenario de la adición de Irlanda a la Liga de las Naciones, el 50 aniversario de nuestra adición europea y el 25 aniversario del acuerdo de Viernes Santo. Asimismo, en estos 2 años he estado en Argentina, he podido visitar un gran número de universidades como la Universidad de Salvador, la Universidad Católica de Buenos Aires, la Universidad Austral, la Universidad Nacional de Córdoba, la Universidad Nacional de Repetti y la Universidad Católica de Santa Fe. Espero poder visitar todas las universidades que trabajan en estudios irlandeses en 2020. Estamos muy comprometidos en trabajar con socios en estudios irlandeses en la región, a través de programas de la Unión Europea para facilitar la colaboración entre instituciones de educación superior y asimismo facilitar y promover el acceso a los irlandeses como programa. En este sentido, la educación y los 2022 lanzamos el programa de becas CEEI-USAL, que permite a argentinas, bolivianas y paraguayas realizar un máster en ya ha permitido a 4 beneficiarios viajar a Irlanda con una beca completa. Al mismo tiempo, estamos trabajando con la embajada Argentina y universidades para establecer una red de universidades y favorecer el intercambio universitario. Asimismo, en estos años, la embajada se ha ampliado, pasamos de ser 2 diplomáticos a 3, y se han incorporado a nuestro staff un asesor político y económico, Tomás Caruso, y mi colega Paula Furlaneto, quien es la nueva colega que se ocupa de las relaciones con la comunidad francesa y la diáspora, la cultura y la diplomacia pública. Por primera vez tenemos colegas que trabajan exclusivamente en estos sectores. Esto es una clara señal de compromiso de Irlanda en el mercado, en la estrategia para América Latina y el Caribe, lanzada por el ministro de Relaciones Exteriores de Irlanda en 2002 para con los países de la región. En este mismo sentido, me complace anunciar que Irlanda apoyará el proyecto para la digitalización del Southern Cross con $35,000. Esperamos que esta importante iniciativa pueda realizarse el año próximo con la biblioteca. Para finalizar, quisiera desearles el mejor de los éxitos a todos ustedes en el simposio, tanto a los expositores como a los asistentes, y les agradezco.
Estamos con una muy buena noticia del simposio, ¿no? Estamos todos muy contentos. Señor Embajador, colegas, hoy abrimos el 4º simposio de estudios irlandeses y tercer simposio de estudios irlandeses de la Cátedra de Estudios Irlandeses, que se titula De lo local a lo global, nuevas miradas en los estudios irlandeses. Lo hacemos con participantes de Argentina y del extranjero, de forma presencial y de forma virtual. Para todos nosotros, el encuentro de la asociación constituye un lugar de encuentro donde, además de encontrarnos con amigos de tantos años, compartimos experiencias, intercambiamos conocimientos, proyectamos hacia el futuro. Afianzamos redes y de esta forma generamos una sinergia que nos permite crear nuevos vínculos y afianzar los estudios irlandeses como un campo de estudio con jerarquía pública. Hemos llegado a esto después de años de arduo trabajo representado por la directora de las cátedras aquí presente, la fundación de AEIS, que pronto cumplirá 10 años, y la labor de muchos académicos y académicas que aportan desde su ámbito de acción. Los estudios irlandeses comprenden múltiples temáticas que van desde la literatura, la historia, la traducción, las ciencias políticas, la economía, entre otros. Pero no es solo un paraguas que reúne distintas disciplinas, es una entidad en sí misma. Pero aunque se ha hecho mucho, queda aún más por hacer. Nos faltan más publicaciones científicas. También necesitamos más estudios de posgrado y más tesistas de máster y de doctorado. Es necesario incrementar los grupos de investigación que generen nuevos conocimientos en español y todo esto también fuera del ámbito del círculo de nuestras universidades, es decir, en otras universidades fuera de nosotros, para que más allá de ellas se conozca nuestro trabajo. El simposio debería repetirse de forma regular y se debería trabajar en conjunto con otras asociaciones hermanas a nivel global. Pienso acá en SILAS, que acá está la vicepresidenta de la asociación. Siempre hemos contado con el respaldo del gobierno de Irlanda, a través de sus embajadores y embajadoras, y esperamos que estos lazos continúen y se fortalezcan cada vez más. Por nuestra parte, nos comprometemos a dar a conocer un país al que queremos mucho y admiramos, para que, a modo de soft power, como se dice en las relaciones internacionales, también pueda ser conocido el país y fomentando su turismo, el estudio de los centros de estudio que son tan importantes, incluso las inversiones de todo tipo. Estos días serán propicios también para recordar con atención los textos de la muestra histórica sobre el periódico de Southern Cross, que ya habrán visto seguramente al ingresar al salón. La muestra se presentó en marzo de 2019 en el Congreso de la Nación para conmemorar los 144 años del periódico y para reflejar la importancia de la comunidad irlandesa en la Argentina y los lazos de amistad entre nuestro país e Irlanda. Nos pareció oportuno volver a montarla ahora, ya muy cercano a los 150 años del nacimiento del periódico, y agradecemos especialmente a su director, Guillermo McCarthy, y al señor Carlos Ford por habernos prestado. Y además, bueno, con esta noticia creo que todavía más contentos y más adecuado mencionar. Dicho todo esto, y dándoles la bienvenida de parte de AEIS, doy por abierto este simposio. Muchas gracias. Es muy grande estar acá. Bienvenida. Alegra mucho saber de estas novedades de la digitalización del subsidio para poder realizarlo, porque es un proyecto que la asociación tiene desde su creación. Y bueno, como dijo María Eugenia, tenemos que seguir apostando a desarrollos académicos, a desarrollos de investigadores privados y también a las universidades. En ese sentido, desde nuestra cátedra de la Universidad de La Plata hemos tratado de abrir ese abanico de posibilidades hacia otras universidades nacionales que son con las que nosotros tenemos más contacto. Y bueno, no solo tienen que ser públicas y privadas, con USAL trabajamos desde 2016 también en algunos proyectos compartidos, así que bueno, muchas gracias por estar acá y que todos disfrutemos de este simposio.
Vamos a dar continuación a nuestro orador invitado, keynote speaker del simposio, que vamos a preparar el estado para él. Muchas gracias por la bienvenida.
Si se quiere fijar, no tiene otra actividad. Muchas gracias por la que
It's my great pleasure to introduce Professor Diarmuid Ó Giolláin. He taught at the University of Cork and at the University of Notre Dame, where he was Professor of Irish Language and Literature until his recent retirement in 2024. He specializes in cultural history, folklore studies, especially the history of ideas and institutions, and popular religion. His major publications are Locating Irish Folklore, Tradition, Modernity, Identity. Well, this one you have to help me, because it's in Irish. On Google, I was unknown. And his latest, Exotic Creeds in the Science of the Folkgeist Towards the Global History of European Folklore Studies. He is currently visiting professor at USAL, thanks to the EST program, as the ambassador was saying before, with support from the government of Ireland, and he will be teaching a special seminar at our diploma of Irish Studies. So we're very happy to have him. And today he will be lecturing about Irish folklorists and the colonial world. Welcome.
Dear friends, it's a pleasure.
Louder.
So I'd like to thank all of that just colonial nivel de conocimiento de nuestra bueno para dar una conferencia formal.
Está muy bueno.
Okay. So, in 1921, Consejo Nacional de Educación, National Focus, circulated to thousands of teachers through our questionnaire with questions on custom belief, stories and problems. Each time. And college first slide. In the instructions sent to teachers, emphasis was placed on patriotic. But teachers were also instructed not to import both any element that appears exotic or song, as would be, for example, contemporary poetry, songs born from foreign peoples, and recently transplanted to the public of immigration. This was not to be a mass folklore circuit, part of the experience. Dr. Ratchet was a distinguished folklorist who was very, very talented here many years ago. Dr. Ratchet points out the continuity in the instructions of these folklore circuits and stressed on what she says: love of country, safeguard and Argentinian nationality, protection, derived from the Spanish and indigenous heritage, as a neutralizing potential against the influence of the import. After the tumultuous years from 1916 to 1923, when retired and undergoing an uprising expedition for more independence and civil war, the state was established whose cultural policy in many ways represented the continuation of previous nationalist prospects. These included the desire to safeguard the Irish language and to cultivate an authentic national culture that would be true to its Gaelic and Celtic origins, rather than imitation of the English culture that would be dominant in centuries. One example of this was the setting up in 1930 of an Irish Folklore Institute. Irish folklore was considered to be endangered by social, economic, and cultural forces that might be categorized in general terms as modernization. In Ireland, these forces were especially saved in the form of the influence of English and American culture, of mass immigration to Britain and the United States, and of that shift from Irish. Particularly, which is politically noticeable in the Irish-speaking Western states that were seen as a precarious reservoir. The Irish Folklore Institute was replaced by the Irish Folklore Commission and was attached to the department. In many ways, it was an offshoot of the late 19th century Parliament, which had been led by Douglas Hyde from Ireland. It was the first in Ireland to bring a more scientific approach to the field of folklore, and to his own published folklore collections that were very influential in the cultural development of the 20th century. The Institute, the Irish Folklore Institute, and the Irish Folklore Commission were both led by Anne, who were named student guides and an assistant in cultural shapes the Diarmuid. What the Diarmuid wrote in 1940 was an indication of the perspective of the Irish language and of Gaelic culture that was widely shared among the European generations. This is the Diarmuid. The real importance of the living language that still lives on the lips of the old people of the Irish speaking districts was not understood, and many people still do not understand it. The chain is still a link between this generation and the first people who took possession of Ireland. Culture still lives on once the knowledge of the 1937 1930, the Irish Folklore Commission organized a scheme to recover school, which was carried out in cooperation with the Department of Education and the Organization of Elementary School Teachers at its local station. The department issued a guide for a scheme to all the elementary schools in the state, and booklets forward explaining folklore and Could I have the next slide? No, take your time. It's just a quotation. Sometimes I find it easier to have it. So you can read the text as well. So go ahead. So this is from the booklet given to the schools. Reading instructions. The collection. This is the introduction. The collection of the oral traditions of the Irish people is about national. It is but fitting that in our primary schools, the senior pupils should be invited to participate in the task of rescuing from oblivion the traditions, which, despite the vicissitudes of the historic Irish nation, have century been preserved with loving care by their ancestors. The task is emerging. For now, time, most of this important national heritage passed away forever. These two examples, the Argentinian and the Irish, from roughly the same period, demonstrate the dominant interpretation of folklore at the time as a cultural phenomenon issuing from the intimate relationship between nation, people, history, and natural environment. Folklore was associated, above all, with those who worked on it and lived in it. And hence was imbued with an authenticity that was seen as lacking in other social contexts, especially contrasted with the large industrial towns and cities with their international connections and diverse populations, and of the upper classes with their cosmopolitan culture, networks, and outlook. But folklore too was seen as something inherited from the past, and like any part of the historical pattern, it's endangered by the passing of time and change. Supposed authenticity of folklore was one reason why many writers were drawn to it as an inspiration to create. From the Argentinian Gauchesque poets to the Anglo-Irish writers of the literary in the 15th and 13th centuries. But it is an older story. Next slide, please. In the late 18th century, the German pastor Johann Wolfgang, one of the foremost critics of Enlightenment universities, saw in folk traditions the genius of the people. Herder inspired the Grünbergs, who helped to develop the field of folk studies as a patriotic German. Germans at the time, remember Germany wasn't united in a single state of the city. Germans at the time lived in a large number of different states. There were hundreds of different states, mostly ruled by princes who preferred to speak French, the language of cosmopolitan culture, and who would stay. To champion the cultural authenticity of the culture of the people that was Herder did, in the face of a cosmopolitan king, was a profoundly liberating act. As the French critic Pascal Casanova has argued, by doing so, Herder undermined the dominant cultural hierarchies of the time and offered a revolutionary new resource to writers who had no native literary knowledge of their own. Collecting, editing, and publishing of tales and poetry gathered from oral tradition, thus, in Casanova's words, became the first quantifiable source of recent literary space. Folklore studies and cultural anthropology are often seen as system ethnographically based research fields. Both disciplines belong to a domain of broadly social scientific research, focusing on society and culture, both modern urban societies as well as in traditional rural societies. According to the sociologist Fuyuki, the next slide, please. According to Kurosawa, the late 19th century institutionalization in Europe and North America of sociology, quote, formalized an already implicit division of intellectual labor along neat geographical and, it was assumed, civilizational lines between sociological and anthropological sciences, with the former devoting itself to modern societies of the North Atlantic region, and the Kurosawa points out this division was taken as a matter of common sense, when in fact it owed its origins to imperialism. He contends that one could argue instead that, quote, also more colonizing societies were the objects of sociological research, and colonized territories were the preserve of the central logic. Kurosawa, who is Canadian, does not consider folklore studies. Neither does he consider the wider ethnology of which is somewhat different, at least in its origins, if not necessarily in its relation to culture. It's our distinction in ethnology. And when we the next slide, please, make a brief excursion to Russia. Ethnology of folklore developed in the 18th century Russian Empire as a collaboration between German scientists and Russian administrators who researched the different peoples of the empire as it rapidly expanded. A nexus of new words appeared from 1740, beginning with Völkerbeschreibung, which means description of peoples embedded in a group, which is a term coined by the historian Gerhard Friedrich Müller on the second scientific expedition in Argentina, a large peninsula in the Russian Far East. And you can see that the second Kamchatka expedition was led by Eagles there, after whom the various states. Müller's student August Friedrich Schultz brought his ideas back to Central Europe, where a number of new related terms were coined. And Paolo, would you mind? Sorry, please. Term ethnografia was coined in 1767. Völkerkunde, which translates as knowledge about peoples, and ethnography were coined in 1770. Volkskunde, knowledge about people, was coined in 1776, and ethnology in 1783. The difference between Volkskunde and Völkerkunde was between historical and descriptive study, one of one's own people, and the comparative study of many, or of all people. So the German word Volk means one people, and Völker is simply the These terms originated in multi-ethnic and multilingual Russian and Habsburg countries, such that language is a key dimension of culture identity, helped to shape the associated research fields. Volkskunde is the first modern term. The English term folklore, which of course is now quite international, was coined in 1846, and it is probably influenced by the German, even if language is never significant in English. So it's a question. In terms of Kurosawa's distinctions, the remit of folklore studies fell somewhere between the national modern societies of the West and colonial societies elsewhere. And folklore studies were concentrated somewhat on regions whose relationship to the metropole has sometimes been characterized in terms of colonialism. And where an incipient field of folklore studies was part of Asian and intimately connected with the question of language. This was the case in Germany, which had been under French culture for centuries. Although to see this in terms of internal colonialism was probably an extreme. The internal colonialist argument probably is stronger if you talk about countries like Finland or Ireland, where folklore studies was part of a nation-building project that led to an independent reunified state. This was the case in Catalonia and the Basque Country as well, but of course it didn't get a state. The global carrying out of disciplinary fields by the metropolitan countries left a space for the study of Western traditional societies. As with sociologists, the people that folklorists wish to study were generally part of the same national societies as themselves. But sociologists took their remit as in principle the sense of focus to try and the whole society, since only part of society create foreign heritage what they understood to be. So, in other words, in general, folklorists were more narrowly focused on specific aspects of their own culture and on particular communities within the society. And as a result, they had a less clear awareness of wider colonial dimensions. It must be said for that most colonial perspective in the humanities and social sciences only became common from the 1930s. Folklore studies tend to be preoccupied with the rescue of the dreaded national culture of the research field itself and more cosmopolitan than often. European encounters with indigenous Americans, whereas they were rooted in so many respects, but an important strain of thought that came from it saw the indigenous people in a positive light. Would you mind now the next slide? And here, the influence of Jean-Jacques Rousseau is important. He played a key role in the spread of the idea of the noble savage and the noble savage was, in fact, an idealized indigenous American. From an original primitive state of grace, Europeans believed that they had progressed upwards towards the perfection of the individual, but in fact, they had corrupted the virtues with which they had originally endowed themselves. But these virtues were still maintained. Rousseau never traveled beyond Europe, but he used the primitive in the contemporary cultural sense of savage and the ethnological sense of first or earliest. As a philosophical yardstick by which contemporary European society could be. In other words, the primitive is close to nature, is close to God. We are different. We're farther away from God, we're farther away from nature. And could I have the next slide, please, Paula? Among the key ideas of Calvin were the value of belonging to a group or to a culture and the incommensurability of it as societies. Every culture had to be admired for what it was and according to its own terms of reference. Nobody would compare cultures because everybody belonged to its main culture, so nobody would like transcendent to be able to make any judgment. So basically, they were he's often seen as the father of culture. He opposed the period, and he was hostile to high culture because of its roots in an unequal society. He considered the ordinary people, not the nobility, clergy, or intelligentsia, as the foundations on which a nation or a state could be built. He was fascinated with non-European peoples, and references to them appeared frequently in his work, even travel the comments, what you might call certain pro-ethnic, ethnographical pro-ethnic, anthropological accounts, to try and understand the peoples of the world. And references to non-European peoples appear frequently as well, usually in positive way. Between 1778 and 1779, he published an anthology of poetry. Sorry, Bob, it's okay. You can see an image there. It was I suppose, a trade-breaking collection of songs and poems. And the term folk German can mean, and it doesn't really mean exactly the same as the English word folk. I mean, a folk song in English has connotations of the countryside, sort of a pre-industrial, a pre-modern world. Whereas German folk is somewhat distinct. Folk speak. You could translate it as folk song, but you could also translate it as national song. And so, in that sense, for Herder, this collection of folk speak was a collection of poetry that represented the genius of distinct peoples. This wasn't sort of imitations of the latest fashion in Paris. these were sounds that came from very subtle folkscast, the spirit of peoples, and it was global in its Inuit sounds. We've got songs from various peasant peoples, but you also Shakespeare and Goethe. Shakespeare and Goethe, just like peasant poets, were also true genius of the people. So folkslieder included what we call folk songs peasant tradition, but also included learned poetry of poets who were true to the genius of the peoples. And Germans were among the first class of Shakespeare. Herder was very influenced by the work of Peter in the 1760s, and who kept the expertise involved. The work was entitled Fragments of Ancient Poetry, collected from the Highlands of Scotland and translated from the Gaelic Burlesque language. And in it were the purported translations by James MacPherson of poems of Ossian, a 3rd century Scottish poetry. And the poems, according to MacPherson, had been supposedly translated orally from antiquity. They won immediate success with the reading public in Scotland, England, and further. Thomas Jefferson called it Ossian, the greatest poets in all of humanity. Napoleon Hart never went anywhere without his connection with Ossian. The first Spanish translation appeared in 1788. It also had considerable influence in Argentina, Persian, and Italian translation. President Nicolás Avellaneda was one of the six blackbirds. Poems loosely based on the heroic Fianna tradition, hence the terms Ossian and Fianna. And this tradition was shared between Gaelic Scotland, Ireland, and most of the early sources are Irish. This is well known from the medieval Irish sources. But it's also known in modern folk tradition in Ireland. As a student, I remember recording the associated tales. And this is in Cape Breton, Cape speakers, and Cape Breton, Cape Breton Gaelic, At any rate, this Fianna tradition was first brought in the but it excited controversy from the beginning over the question of MacPherson sources. Could these poems be transmitted orally from the 3rd century AD? And MacPherson published these works in English, but they were translations, but they were the originals. The positive reception of the Ossian poems was informed by debates about the origins of Homer's poems, the AEIS, and Homer's that we found Western poetry. And debates about the origin of Homer's poems were influenced by discussions of the merits of primitive poetry that, if you like, was very, very close to the origins of the human spirit. Vico, Jean-Baptiste Vico, next slide, please. He had explained history as the gradual development stages of humanity's understanding of the world. And according to Vico, all societies passed through 3 successive stages: a divine period in which senses dominated, and God spoke through natural phenomena such as thunder; a heroic period, this is the key period, in which the imagination was still close to nature, language rich in similes and metaphors, and heroic figures low. And human period, a later period, dominated by reason, which of course, for that very same reason, that's our spontaneity of heroic poetry. Heroic poetry hence belonged to an earlier, more primitive period of civilization, when people were closer to nature, and this poetry opened up the spirit of a heroic world. And you can see that the equal their barbarous peoples, cut off from all other nations of the world, as were the Germans and the American Indians, have been found to preserve versus the Indians of their history. Next slide, please. The Jesuit missionary in Canada, Joseph was from a nephew. In his comparative work, Women is so educated the customs of the Native Indians compared with the customs of the primitive time. This work drew on the 5 years he spent as a missionary among the Native his work, he argued that people could have a sophisticated culture and social system in spite of their lack of knowledge. Lafido compared the Iroquois to the Greeks. He compared their myths to Rome and classical mythology, and he compared their origin to that of the Greeks. And comparisons of Native American peoples to the Greeks and Romans were evidence of the development of a more subtle understanding of the European classical age. More positive fiction, as much as documentary representation of world cultures, demonstrated a new perspective according to which non-literate societies seem to embody the innocence, compassion, and naturalness that have been lost. Indeed, scholars began to accredit the power of the language of Homer before their European poetry into the primitive figure of society. These ideas conditioned the exception of Ossian, which had a sensational impact in Germany. German intellectuals opposing the cultural hegemony of France and the classical poet saw in Ossian the Homer of the North, poet who drew on native resources that were aesthetically equal. At first, his legacy was tainted by controversy, and by the eventual proof that the poems of Ossian were in fact his work, based to a significant extent on native theory, produced from Gainesville, Canada. But the idea of poetic treasures hidden in the popular tradition and motivated collections of oral or popular poetry in many countries, many of them foundational works of national literature, such as the Finnish epic Modera, published in 1800. Herder strongly influenced the Grimm brothers, who were to establish the foundations of local studies and that the study of the folk tale was a central part of their field. Right? How the next slide is that and the Grimm brothers' collection of folk tales came out of 1000, usually more languages, these Grimm fairy tales. First published in 1812 was to be the second most widely read book in the 19th century German, and was to be an imitation of the collection of folk tales in a huge variety. Next slide, please. The development of the comparative study of Indo-European from the early 19th century and significant. And one major influence of the development of Indo-European studies was that it gave European scholars the possibility of tracking migrations that took place in prehistoric times, of unveiling a history that predated biblical and classical accounts, and of investigating the origins of the modern. The philosopher and literary critic Friedrich Schlegel, he had initiated the study of comparative Indo-European languages and posited the point of origin of these documents in India. If Indo-European languages spread widely in Eurasia from India through migration of folk tales, Wilhelm Grimm proposed that folk tales were found in regions in which Indo-European languages were spoken, and that they were inherited from Indo-European. The collection and study of folk tales came to be the central concern of folk studies, and for several decades, from the beginning of the 20th century, the study of folk tales included the tracing of their diffusion from the recent home in the furthest reaches of Indo-European reach, the furthest reaches of the old world, Ireland and Iceland. So the idea of history, the folk tale from India to Ireland, covered the span of the European. And this approach characterized Irish folk studies as well. Even more so because of the huge collections of folk tales made by the Irish Folk Commission and the Irish Folk Institute for the And just to give you one example of the numbers of folk tales. The register is a catalogue of international folk tales known in Ireland. It's called the Types of the Irish Folk Tale. It was published in 1963. And it gives references, bibliographical references, to 43,000 or so tales and refrains that were collected up to November 1956. So we're talking huge. And again, this side of the European was essential to the study of folk tales. British control. And the first comparisons, the first compelling arguments made about the relationship in Sanskrit and where the patent was paid by some Jones in the edition. Empire was an unavoidable fate for Irish people from much of their history. Hundreds of thousands of Irish people served in the British East India Company, colonial administration, as missionaries, or as emigrants to settler societies. Irish nationalists were aware of the colonies, and there were some conflicts between Irish nationalists and nationalists in other British colonies, India and above all. And of course, the same applied to the Spanish colonies, for example, in the context of the Catalan and Filipino nationalists. Nationalists lived in inferior societies, and the empire touched them in various ways. Non-Western ethnographic collections in Europe are not only found in the museums of the Imperial Office, British Museum and the Louvre, and so on, but you also find it in museums from countries such as Ireland, Norway, or Finland, which are not below Congress. One can give many examples of this. Nearly a small collection of 31 ethnographic objects from the Muslim countries of Western Sudan was sent to the Royal Dublin Society in 1824 by an Irish surgeon in the return. It is among the Irish collections in Europe of sub-Saharan artifacts acquired during the period before the establishment of the colonial. Ethnographic objects were collected from the 1890s by Roger Casement in Congo and the Honorario region of Peru, while he was investigating the exploitation of rubber workers in the British consulate. Arthur William Mahaffey, son of the provost of Trinity College, made an important ethnographic collection during the period 1895 to 1440. Much of it from human days, when he held a variety of administrative positions in Solomon Islands, Fiji, and the Emerson and punitive rates, basically, rates of looting, in which the idea was to teach the lesson by informing their villages and stealing things that were wrong. And of course, all of these collections are mentioned in the National Museum of Ireland, but the National Museum of Ireland that we know about because they were sort of embarrassment. And same applied to other countries, such as recent nationalist movements, the founding of new states that these are colonial parts of their heritage, but just couldn't make sense of it. Two prominent Irish folks, to my knowledge, work with the Indian Office. And the Indian Office was the Office of the British Civil Service that oversaw the administration of the subcontinent. Would you mind the next slide, please? William Darwin, Protestant law, studied clinical knowledge of the moved to London to work as a captain. He wrote poetry, and in London he got to know Irish artists who were part of the literary revival, and he became interested in Irish language. His collection of folk tales, West Irish folk tales and romances, was considered to be very important. John McCullum was a Catholic Catholic. He went to London at the age of 21 and later in the Indies. In London, he joined a number of Irish nationalist organizations to the extent that they kept the flag. In 1926, he was back in Ireland and he met William Wolfen's brother-in-law, Patrick Mathis, who was active in the Buenos Aires branch of the AEIS, and he gave him money to further education. And McCullum was one of the founders of Folklorists Irish Society in 1997, which owes something to Irish. And by the way, I mentioned just to say about the French and German. I learned about the Buenos Aires branch of the AEIS from German. He was wonderful on that. Another Irish folklorist who had grown in experience was a figure much better known and much more significant than even an army culture. Next slide, please. Douglas Hyde was a poet, playwright, translator, literary scholar, folklorist, first professor of modern Irish at the University of Dublin, and first President of Ireland. He taught English and French in Fredericton, the University of Brunswick in Canada, for the 1890 academic year. At the time, Fredericton had only a few thousand inhabitants, mostly English Protestants of origin. Hyde spent his first few weeks in Fredericton lodging in the British Army officers' barracks, which was facilitated by a contact. In Fredericton, Hyde had a full social life in the milieu, as in Hyde's biographer puts it, in the milieu not unlike that of a garrison camp in Ireland. In both places, the officers of the British Army provided the mainstay of upper class social life. In other words, a very sort of lonely, very lonely. The French-speaking population here at Fredericton were the remnants of the French colony of Acadia, and the population of which was expected British conquest after 1750. The Acadians and the other settlers, mostly Europeans, were intruders on the lands of the Nadsat, Algonquin people who were indigenous to the region. In that winter, Hyde, in company of members of the local elite, went hunting with Maliseet trappers, and he became fascinated with their language and culture, noting that vocabulary and collecting a number of stories from the Maliseet, which he published in 1819 as, quote, on some Indian folklore, Algonquin stories, published in the Providence Journal, a Rhode Island newspaper, which was well exposed to local churches. For these Irish folk were influenced by these colonial circumstances. As regards Ireland and common Ireland, but Hyde's writing were voluminous, so it was easier to get a sense of his ideas. Writing of the difference between Indian folk tales and tales of literary origin, he referred to the former as old Aryan traditions, and the latter as bardic inventions. And of course, Aryan was a synonym of Indo-European, and he chose Hyde's awareness of current logical research. He explained one of his tales in terms of mythology, and wrote that it, and quote, it must have taken its rise at a time when our ancestors were in much the same rude and mindless condition as the Australian blacks or the Indians in California are today. And now to write in this way was, typical racism of his era. But he wrote a narrative denying terms about the Nazis. Their numbers he wrote in become they strongly defended their language and cultural tradition, which is something, of course, he was very strongly interested in the Irish context. And he wrote that while men learned such things through work, they spoke Nazi at home. And he compared them with the Irish province of Connacht, where women kept managing life at home and the men learned English through work. And he wrote that in Ireland, Irish speakers learned English, but the English in Ireland did not learn Irish. And in New Brunswick, the Maliseet learned English, but the European settlers and their descendants did not learn English. In both countries, the English distorted native-based things. While Irish speakers borrowed words and phrases into their language from English, the Maliseet were resistant to such borrowings. In reference to the anglicization of Irish-based things, the famous lecture beginning in 1892, I wrote of these English renditions of Irish-based things. That quote, they have been treated with about the same respect as if they were the names of a savage tribe, which had never before been introduced to writing, with about the same intelligence and contempt as vulgar and squatters treat topographic of the Indians. This reference surely derives from his experience in New Brunswick. So it's not it's a more nuanced. Let's say it's partly informed by contemporary West standards, but also you can see that he's able to wear the use of language with the Irish. In each case, he seems this is the settlers as sort of vulgar upstarts, and partly because, of course, his own background is very high language ascendancy. Post-colonial readings have been significant in studies of Irish literature in recent decades, influenced by Said, of course, who himself was aware of the Irish post-colonial connection. The study of literature has, of course, always been open to new critical approaches. History of less so environment. Insofar as history is concerned, there have been many arguments made about the colonial nature of Ireland's past, especially in popular histories and in popular understandings of history. Among professional historians, there is perhaps a scholarly consensus around the acknowledgement of colonial aspects to Irish history, and at the same time of the limitations of comparisons of Ireland's experience to that of the English. Right. So the last book, please, about that. The Board of Trinity College Dublin decided on October the 9th, 2 days ago, to rename the university's library after the poet who founded the board. Until April 8, 2023, the library had been known as the Berkeley Library. People tell me they should pronounce it Berkeley, the philosopher, but in my ignorance, I can't forgive me if I persist to call it Berkeley. So it had been known as the Berkeley Library after the philosopher who would study it. However, it had become widely known that Berkeley owned enslaved people in Rhode Island and that he advocated in favor of it. This controversy was part of a wider debate about the relationship between Ireland and slavery and of Irish complicity with that Ireland, and of course that was partly energized by Black Lives Matter. Another aspect of the debate was the refutation of the false narrative of Irish slaves in the Caribbean. It is true that thousands of Irish were transported by prominent in the West Indies in the 1650s, and while their treatment was undoubtedly cruel and inhumane, they were indentured servants, not slaves. And this notion of Irish slaves has become a potent pseudo-historical narrative used in the United States, especially to minimize the reality of African American chattel slavery. But it has also appeared in reputable publications and has with difficulty been refuted by historians. There were no Irish slaves in modern times, but there were many Irish participants in the Atlantic slave trade, and many Irish enslaved in British, French, Danish, and Spanish islands of the West Indies. And while Ireland's Protestant ruling elite of English origin, well connected at all levels of the British imperial establishment, was responsible for most of the non-Western ethnic religions in Ireland. Catholics took the role of young soldiers, civil servants, administrators, and missionaries. Irish Catholics and Protestants were both traders and slaves. So to point out the colonial aspects of folklore scholarship, and specifically to Irish folklore scholarship, as part of a wider interrogation of an interconnected world, in which even those oppressed countries that sought to free themselves from foreign rule were linked through imperial networks of soldiers, administrators, missionaries, and scholars with the colonial world. This is an initial and somewhat cursory interrogation of colonial dimensions to Irish folklore studies. Hopefully we'll see a lot more research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we might be wondering about comparative studies between our situation in Argentina with folklore and what Professor Oberon has just said about Ireland. And I was thinking about the influence of the Spaniards and how folklore has changed throughout time, and we being able to receive folklore traditions from native peoples through Spanish, actually, because it's the only way we have. And so I was thinking about this comparative studies that you mentioned at the end. So new research is very welcome, as we are always saying. And so I see many scholars in the room. And so we are welcome to think about this for future studies. Now, yes, we are going to open a space for questions. I see Cristina has one and Modera has another. So I think that we should take the microphone to them so that everyone. No, wait, no, the thing is that people are on Zoom, and so they will be able to hear you only if you have a microphone. So 1 second, please. We help you out. Thank you so much.
No, mine is not a question, just congratulations, Professor Ó Giolláin. Your presentation was really wonderful. It's open. As a matter of fact, I have not started these studies yet. Maybe in the future after your presentation, but it's incredible. I don't know if you're going to continue what you said. I imagine what the future publication could be, but Thank you so much. And you know that I lived in Quebec, in Canada, but Quebec for 4 years. I wrote a thesis there. And it's incredible the impact of Irish music on popular Quebecois music. You know that I belong to the university circle. They never mentioned that. My field was literature, really, not music. But then a group of friends invited me to a place where there was music, dancing, and it was incredible, really. And everybody knows and everybody comments on that. So, not in the language, not in the songs, though that was not the field of my research. Maybe if we begin, I mean, there are very good singers and composers in French, in Quebecois, let's say. But in music, the impact is incredible. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
I learned so much. I hope to, well, not learn, I just, but I hope to learn when I read your presentation. Thanks a lot.
Can I just say as well, just in response to that, it's true that, it's often said that, Argentina was the only sort of non-English speaking country in which, significant number of Irish immigrants came. But, of course, Quebec is part of Canada. It's never left the British realms again. But at the same time, it's a non-English speaking society in which there has been significant Irish influence.
Really?
Yeah. And again, there's been quite a bit has been written about that, about the Irish. I mean, already there were, I think in Levallois, there were Irish settlers that came in French, and I think they know the name of, in the 17th century, Irish man. His name was, it's known as a sort of, it's known as a pick in French, TBC, which I think is Kyle, which is a common sort of Irish name. But so there have been Irish people there falling off, and I think it's a more recent interest. But I mean, I remember when I was there first, the old days when you had telephone directories. I just out of curiosity, I just looked up the most common Irish surnames in the Quebec City telephone directory, and I found that they were more likely to have French given names. Murphy, the Abbey Rees rather than Bridget or something like that. So that there's I think in Montreal it's a bit different.
Well, it is more multicultural, yes.
But certainly there is that interest, all right. And I know some there has been there's at least one book written in the Irish.
But for me, this is a new field and new people interested. You're going to start. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Ian, for the insightful presentation. Mine is a comment as well, not a question. Just thank you for confirming that the people's nation communities need to preserve their traditions, their history as well. They prefer literature, poetry, folk tales, etc. And that's because literature has a subversive power towards colonial powers, and so that's why it is preferred rather than writing a chronicle of what is going on. And it is more powerful than history many times. Okay, so thank you for confirming that. Thanks.
I think you're right. I suppose well like that. Historians, I think Irish history writing has tended to be more from here, which has meant it's been very good at chronicling the facts, but at the same time it's sort of tuned out its own ideological bias. Whereas I suppose in literary theory is very obvious, it's out there. There's as much ideology as but
at the same time, I think it's true too that the writers often tell us more than the historians. And I remember something now that my former colleague, of course, you know, Dick and Carver said, and he said the writers were sort of an early warning system for problems in society. And it's interesting, so many issues, you know, that have been the subject of, you know, commissions of inquiry, state commissions of inquiry. Often these issues were already treated by writers. So I think that you know, writers somehow or other have a way of representing all of these things that come in together.
Sorry, there's a question by Jesse. Someone can take the microphone, maybe? Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jim. That was wonderful. I just wanted to go back to how you started and the reference to the Consejo de Educación here in Argentina in 1924. In Ireland, of course, as you rightly said, the movement to study folklore was closely related to the national revival, and that fed into, to a degree, the nationalist movement. It wasn't surprising then that the new state focused some attention on this issue. In the case of Argentina, it's of course very fascinating because there wasn't necessarily going to be a single narrative. And 19th century Argentina was divided politically, obviously. The Unitarians, on the one hand, looking out, and the Federales looking its part towards what's sometimes called valores de. But I'm just wondering how is there room for comparison, as it were, between the study of the origin of the folklore studies in both countries, whether that's something that might be worth pursuing with what I just said.
Thanks very much, Justin. And I actually, for you know, there's, I mean, I've read a certain amount about the National Folklore Survey previously, but actually last year there was a special number about evidence in we voted a number of articles, and it's available. It's an open source journal, so volume 10, number 2. So it's very interesting collection of essays, and I think that, I mean, Irish nationalism was in many ways politically very conservative, and I think that, I mean, there's one sense in which there's a sort of almost a revolutionary potential in folklore, which inherits as authentic cultural values. But you know, the downside of that then is the notion of authenticity. I think Appalachia, you know, she made the case that, you know, that in a sense, you know, the folklore survey seems to represent in part a reaction to the idea that the country was being very, very quickly transformed by immigration, and that certain elements of society saw it necessary to try and record what was authentically Argentinian and offer that as a model. And I mean, in a certain way in Ireland, and of course in other countries in Europe that had folklore, large folklore collection projects, the idea was that high culture was associated with foreign rule. And in that sense, you know, the idea that cosmopolitans and late 18th century, early 19th century Germany, you know, aristocrats ruled. The aristocrats spoke French by preference. They were cosmopolitan. So, you know, what's the alternative to a cosmopolitan group? If you want to, you find that there's no group that's more rooted than peasants. You know, and you know, even just the nature of speech, it hasn't died. Every village has its own slightly different pronunciation. So if you're looking for a particular notion of culture and authenticity, you find it there. And in Ireland, because of language, there was a sense, of course, cultural nationalism was very influential in late 19th, early 20th century Europe. And Hyde was very cognizant of that. And Hyde's argument for the necessity of de-Anglicizing Ireland was informed ultimately by current ideas that, to be a proper people, you needed your language and culture. So how could the Irish say, on the one hand, we want independence, but on the other hand, the Irish language is just associated with ignorance and poverty. So I think in that sense, there was a late realization that, okay, there is only a very, very limited time and space where the real Ireland still survives. I mean, I think the citation from Diarmuid where it talked about when the last native Irish speakers have come up, that would be the last link that connects Ireland to the Irish nation. So I think that there's a sense of continuity as well, of a certain amount of past authenticity. The idea of Ireland that had a very rich medieval culture, widely admired in a very early and a very extensive medieval literature. That, it sort of all comes to an end with the Elizabethan and Cromwellian conquests. And it's interesting that most histories of modern Ireland begin in 1600. It's as if 1600 historians don't really need to know Irish, whereas those dealing with earlier periods they have to engage in culture. So the idea then that through folklore, because of course the elite culture in Ireland was sort of wiped out because it was supported by the native aristocracy, who were dispossessed or went into exile, and by the Catholic Church, which was suppressed. So really Irish survived as a peasant language. And people like Hyde and Diarmuid would say then that the only thing that connects modern Ireland to that great Irish nation and culture of the past is this very, very narrow thread of peasant communities in the West. So they represent something that has been lost elsewhere. But because they exist, they can be sort of a base, a bridgehead for re-Gaelicizing Ireland, for bringing this Irish heritage. And I think in a slightly different way, the idea of the national folklore project. And, I mean, from the things I've read about suggested the idea that this could be sort of used in a way as a model to teach children of their heritage about the sort of the criollo authenticity of heritage. So I think there's a sense always when questions of culture and authenticity come in. And sometimes, I mean, and of course, folklore can be appreciated from the left as well as the voice of the people. And of course, it can be appreciated from the right as a sort of conservative values. So you have both elements to it. I mean, I've read a little bit about folklore studies in Brazil, which were, in the onto the military coup of 1964.
Yes.
That
Yes.
that it is actually very much in the left, the folklore studies. So the idea of folklore studies too can be a sort of the genuine culture of the people is popular. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I found that very interesting. The idea of popular culture. Generally, if you read English and French and North American studies of popular culture is simply the culture of the urban working classes. But I think in Latin American research, popular culture too is also associated with campesinos and with the sort of rural population is marginalized and often seen as subject to the tyranny of land agents. So I think there are comparisons certainly. And of course, distinctions, the differences as well.
Hello, thank you very much. I have a comment and a question. I remember reading on the Cátedras de Estudios Irlandeses, we read a web page where all the stories, all the stories were collected for the children in school, that they brought stories about their families. And those characters and those stories were really amazing. I don't know how complex about it. So I wonder if an author can take that, like those characters, and create some kind of fiction or something they can spread more of that information.
Thank you very much. We know that, the writers of the Irish history, Yeats was also a folklorist, J. Gregory was also a folklorist, John Minnick Singh was also a folklorist. I think of the three of them, Singh was the best read in contemporary folklore studies. Hyde published, Yeats published 2 anthologies of folklore. Yeats published, Lady Gregory published various collections of folklore. So it was for them very important. And I think that much of Yeats' early poetry was influenced by it. There's also a past and present, that basically Yeats read a lot of translations of medieval Irish literature, but also he was very interested in folklore himself and Lady Gregory. So I think it was very much the idea of, for the idea of creating a national literature, which of course Yeats wanted to do. The problem was, until then, Irish literature was seen in English, was seen as simply, a sort of a poor imitation of what was going on in English. All the literary fashions were followed that were going on in England. Whereas, for Yeats and for his contemporaries, the idea of creating a genuinely Irish literature in English meant engaging with Irish materials, engaging with Irish literature, and engaging with the modern tradition. And I think it was very important. The writings of Pascal Casanova, I found them very inspiring. One of the poems she makes too, the idea of time. Time is important in cultural history. The old established nation states have long histories. You think of, France, you've got the great, you've got Corneille and Racine and all this great history. You've got the palaces and you've got the great cathedrals and all that. The same for England. You go to a country like Finland, for example. They were ruled by Swedish speakers for centuries. Finnish wasn't really used as a language of literature. So how can they compete? How can someone who wants to write poetry in Finnish compete with someone who's writing in Swedish, which already has been, it's a literary language from late medieval times. And of course, as Casanova says, this is where Herbert's ideas were revolutionary. Because by using oral traditions, you sort of cancel out the advantages that the long-established countries had. Because, of course, folklore oral traditions were seen. Macpherson argued that for us. They weren't seen in a sort of a sociological sense. They were seen as historical documents. So that in that sense, folklore was sort of a branch of the studies. I mean, when I studied folklore in Dublin, we forget for thinking that we're all medievalists. Really, because what was interesting in folklore was that you went back, it brought you back in time. You didn't study it to learn about the present, to learn about people who told these stories or had these beliefs. You used it, if you like, to connect with the past. So that was a very important aspect of it, that it created a historical thing that otherwise didn't exist. And this is where actually philology was very important in that sense as well. Lithuania, for example. Lithuania has a very interesting history. The last major European kingdom to be Christianized, and at the same time, we have this Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which ruled a huge territory between the Baltic and the Black Sea. But at the same time, it was absorbed then through the Union of Poland, and Lithuanian as a literary language is very, very recent. Really, it's again a sort of a cultural nationalist movement in the 19th century led to the development of modern Lithuanian. literature. But on the other hand, people talk about Lithuanian as the daughter of Sanskrit. Because Lithuanian, from a linguistic point of view, is very conservative. So for Lithuanians, okay, they may have this recorded history is very recent, and this recorded literature is very recent. But through the history of the language, it brings it back much further than other people. So in that sense, language became a way to extending or giving historical depth to countries that didn't have sources. So this is one of them because language and folk come together then because folk tales too were seen as a sort of an European heritage. So these were things that brought you very, very far back.
One more question.
Thank you so much. I was thinking when you gave us a presentation about identity, because I think that identity is the concept permeating all this, the essential need for folklore, both in Ireland, in Argentina, and for all the peoples of the world to construct their identity and to know who they are and where they belong.
I think that's true, and I think that's why folklore has been of interest in some countries more than others. I mean, it's interesting that one of the things I'm interested in, I suppose, is the institutionalization and professionalization of folklore studies. I mean, basically, it didn't happen in Britain, it didn't happen in France, because of course, you think of French, it's just there was no need. There was no need for folklore as, I mean, okay, it could be a sort of scholarly or regional concern. I mean, Basques, the Basque country French, Basques could be interested in folklore, French honest. But in terms of the French nation state, there's no way that folklore could offer anything to the language of, colonial, the Racine, and so on. It's similarly with English, so it was sort of different. And whereas you find in countries like Germany, where I suppose that folklore studies began, countries that had departments of folklore archives, countries such as Germany, Finland, Estonia, and so on. Actually, the three largest folklore archives in the world are in Helsinki, Tartu in Estonia, and in Dublin. So in that sense, folklore studies tended to develop in one kind of country, and cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology associated, I suppose, with colonial empires, and folklore studies interested more in the sort of an inward, looking inwards to the nation. And that's basically true. Like I just want I mentioned it earlier on, but to thank the translators.
Thank you. Well, I would like to say that Professor Romero will stay in Argentina, and I think that he is willing to talk to anyone who's interested in expanding on his perspectives on folklore and his area of specialization. So you're very welcome to contact him. Well, of course, you can contact him over the coffee break as well to congratulate him in person. And so we go to the coffee break and we resume at 11. Thank you very much again. Delivering a public lecture on November the 6th here about the connection between Ireland and Argentina more specifically. So we'll send the invitation very soon, but he will be lecturing again here. So thanks again.